We are living in an era of war. In Ukraine, Russia and Ukrainian forces have been locked in a protracted standoff that began with an invasion of Ukraine in February last year. More than a year and a half later, there's been no sign of any de-escalation. In fact, Times Network's group editor Navika Kumar spoke to Dmytro Kuleba, the Ukrainian foreign minister, who briefed us about the outcome of the third round of peace talks in Malta.
We're speaking 615 days into the Russia-Ukraine war that broke out. In fact, we are also speaking after the third round of peace talks in Malta. What do you think the peace formula of President Zelensky was, and what was the acceptance around the table of this peace formula?
Well, it's enough to say that 66 countries took part in the third meeting of national security advisors and diplomatic representatives in Malta. Just to give you an understanding, 2 months ago in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia, we had slightly more than 40 countries. And in the first meeting in this format in Copenhagen 3 months ago, we had 15. So 15, 44, and 66. We see that the number of countries who are joining this process is growing, and it is a good sign in itself. Of course, there are many issues that need to be discussed. 10 points, they are not easy to be implemented in a blink of an eye, but we are making good progress. And most importantly, we see that our peace formula, based on respect for territorial integrity of Ukraine, this peace formula does not imply territorial concessions to Russia, is gaining momentum, is gaining support, and is the basis for any peace settlement in Ukraine. This is an achievement that we can, fix right now.
But the Russian president has been calling the last two rounds as counterproductive with absolutely no perspective. How do you respond to the Russian position?
Well, absolutely. Anything that does not imply that Russia will stay in the territory of Ukraine is considered by Moscow as counterproductive with zero chances to be implemented. But this is the whole essence of it. Ukraine defends international law and the principle of territorial integrity that must be respected by everyone. Russia invaded Ukraine. Russia has no legal or political right to stay in the territories it currently occupies. Therefore, any peace settlement should be based on the principle of Russia's withdrawal. And our joint goal with other countries is to bring situation to the point where Russia will have to face the fact that it has no chances to stay, and it has to engage diplomatically in a solution that will respect Ukraine's territorial integrity.
And in another continent, there's a war raging in the Middle East. And there's been no de-escalation there either. The Russia-Ukraine conflict has lasted almost 625 days. The war between Israel and Hamas is now in its fourth week. And as per reports, there have been more than 10,000 casualties overall. More than 1,400 people have died in Israel, a majority of them during the October 7 terror attack by Hamas. More than 8,500 Palestinians are known to have been killed in retaliatory airstrikes by Israel, with the Gaza administration claiming that more than 3,000 among these are children. Contrary to what was being speculated earlier, this is not going to be a short, limited war. Israel's objective is to completely obliterate Hamas, and to achieve this, it has undertaken a land invasion of Gaza. In the process, it has lost more than 24 soldiers, while also claiming that it has eliminated several top commanders of the terror organization. However, a land invasion presents multiple challenges. Hamas is deeply entrenched within the civilian population in Gaza, and distinguishing between who is a civilian and who is a Hamas operative could be difficult. Next, urban warfare presents the problem of terrain, and that too in one of the most densely populated parts of the world. And finally, what does the obliteration of Hamas really entail? It's an organization that's been in existence since the late 1980s. What's the guarantee really that its current leadership will not be replaced by another group of ready recruits? In fact, we posed some of these questions to Michael Oren, the former Israeli ambassador to the United States.
How do you see the timeline of the conflagration that's currently on between Israel and Gaza?
Well, good to be with you. The timeline is there really isn't a timeline. It's this is a long battle. It won't be over in a day. I don't know if it'll be over in a week or 2 weeks. The Israeli army is proceeding forcefully but slowly and cautiously. Paramount in our interest is preserving the lives of our soldiers. We lost 16 soldiers yesterday. They are operating in the extremely inhospitable environment. You're talking about the first battle zone for soldiers, right? I've been in battle zones like this. It is heavily mined. And that's just what's above the ground. Hundreds of miles and bunkers that Hamas has dug of Gaza. And to make it worse, somewhere in those tunnels are 240 of our hostages. So we have to be very cautious. We're fighting an enemy that uses its own population. And while any loss or harm to civilian life, the responsibility for that human life is solely on Hamas. Hamas uses these people to defend its headquarters. The headquarters are beneath hospitals, beneath schools, beneath buildings in the refugee camps, as you heard. And we place with tremendous moral dilemmas. We have asked this population, we've urged it again and again to move out of the battle area. We know for a fact that Hamas, in many cases, has prevented those civilians from leaving the battle area, and sometimes even at gunpoint. So if civilians are harmed while we have to fight this battle, that is solely in the hands of Hamas.
Well, let me ask you, the declared objective of this war is to obliterate the Hamas. Several Hamas leaders have already been killed, but can Hamas be obliterated given how deeply embedded they are in the civilian population in Gaza? What's the guarantee that they will not have enough ready recruits to replace those who are currently being targeted?
Well, I would agree with you. I think we can eliminate Hamas as a major military threat out of Gaza, as the de facto government of Gaza. I think we can do all that. Again, it's not easy, you're right. And it may take a long time and may prove costly to our troops. What we can't do, and I'll be very honest with you, is we can't eliminate the idea of Hamas, which is the same idea as ISIS and Hezbollah and Al-Qaeda and the Muslim Brotherhood. It's the exact same idea. And that is to eliminate that idea will require generations of a different type of education for young people.
The escalation on the part of Israel also complicates the situation because more than 200 hostages still remain in Hamas's custody. We are already witnessing a conflict where several other players have, in one way or the other, gotten involved. The US Secretary of State Anthony Blinken made his second visit to Israel following the outbreak of the war. Joe Biden, the US president, has already made one visit.
No country could or should tolerate the slaughter of innocents. I saw, for example, a family on a kibbutz, a father, two young boys, grabbing them, pulling them out of their living room, going through their very small backyard and into a shelter, followed seconds later by a terrorist who throws a grenade into that small shelter. It is striking and in some ways shocking that the brutality of the slaughter has receded so quickly in the memories of so many.
In fact, the Americans have intercepted missiles fired towards Israel from Yemen on the part of the Houthis who've been backed by Iran. Iran is an important player in what's been transpiring in the Middle East, given its open support to Hamas in Gaza and the Hezbollah in Lebanon. The Israelis have been carrying out airstrikes against Hezbollah targets as well in Lebanon.
Open all the fronts. We want all parts to participate in the resistance against occupation. We want to open all the borders for all people.
The question is, will this spiral into a larger conflict, a larger conflagration in the Middle East? In fact, could American preoccupation with what's happened in the Middle East prompt Russia to further intensify its onslaught against Ukraine? Will it also prompt the Chinese to go ahead with its designs on Taiwan? Here's what Michael Oren had to say.
What about a larger geopolitical turbulence with Russia's intensification of its onslaught in Ukraine, or China looking to invade Taiwan if the United States gets sucked into a conflict here in the Middle East? Do you think this is something that's a possible scenario?
You can't rule out any. You can't. Anything's possible. Who would have thought on October 6th that October 7th? No, you can't rule out it. You have to prepare for every contingency. And I'm assured that people are preparing. They are indeed.
Are you saying they are preparing for such a situation, should it arise?
If I know military planners, I know that they plan for every contingency. Certainly.
As far as India is concerned, it abstained from a Jordan-sponsored UN resolution calling for a humanitarian ceasefire in Gaza. The resolution had carried no mention of Hamas.
The terror attacks in Israel on 7th October were shocking and deserve condemnation. Our thoughts are also with those taken hostages. We call for their immediate and unconditional release. Terrorism is a malignancy and knows no borders, nationality, or race. The world should not buy into any justification of terror acts. Let us keep aside differences, unite, and adopt a zero-tolerance approach to terrorism. Mr. President, casualties in the ongoing conflict in Gaza are a telling, serious, and continuing concern. Civilians, especially women and children, are paying with their lives. This humanitarian crisis needs to be addressed. We welcome the international community's de-escalation efforts and delivery of humanitarian assistance to the people of Gaza. India, too, has contributed to this effort. Mr. President, India is deeply concerned at the deteriorating security situation and astounding loss of civilian lives in the ongoing conflict. The escalation of hostilities in the region will only exacerbate the humanitarian crisis. It is necessary for all parties to display the utmost responsibility. Mr. President, India has always supported a negotiated two-state solution to the Israel-Palestine issue, leading to the establishment of a sovereign, independent, and viable state of Palestine, living within secure and recognized borders, side by side in peace with Israel. For this, we urge the parties to de-escalate, eschew violence, and work towards creating conditions for an early resumption of direct peace negotiations. We hope that the deliberations of this Assembly will send a clear message against terror and violence and expand prospects for diplomacy and dialogue while addressing the humanitarian crisis that confronts us.
Of massacre. Here, more than 40 children were beheaded and several people were held hostage, and after that they were abducted and dragged to Gaza.
Times Now's Pradeep Datta and Sachin Rawat have been covering the war right from the outset, from Israel and very close to the Gaza border.
Right now I'm on Gaza border and you can see the mobilization of troops have started. Behind me you can see hundreds of Israeli tanks with their flag fluttering on them. They are trying to encircle Gaza area. Slowly and slowly they are inching towards the spot that because just waiting for that green signal when finally the ground assault can start, because Israeli troops have made up their mind that they are going to start a three-pronged attack. One attack will be from the land side, or the other attack will be from the sea side, and the third attack will be the aerial attack. Already we have seen for the last few days, aerial attack has been continuing where their aircrafts had been bombarding and decimating many of those areas where the Hamas terrorists had been hiding. But now you can see with these tanks, they are further going to launch aerial ground assault, and they're going to decimate the infrastructure of Hamas and their leadership, because after October 7, Israel had made up their mind that they have to wipe out Hamas terror. A reason being that we have seen what really happened on October 7. This was not only shocking, but this was also surprising too, because nobody had thought that Hamas terrorists will be entering inside Israel. They resorted to barbarism. They resorted to brutality. Even the women and children were also not saved. That's one of the reasons that Israel leadership, Israel army and defense forces, they have decided that they are going to decimate, demolish Hamas, and they are going to teach them lesson. And you can see large number of tanks, the mobilization of the troop has already started, that we are going to demolish them, their infrastructure, because many of their leaders, they're hiding inside those tunnels, because there is going to be a challenging task for them, because there is a network of tunnel. Then the area is very less. It will not be easy for this tank movement and armored vehicle to move in that area. But they have already prepared the blueprint. They have already prepared a blueprint how to take on Hamas, how to take on their snipers. Again, let me show you the kind of a preparation that is going on. Look at these tanks. Hundreds of these tanks in this area, trying to encircle Gaza, trying to ensure that they are able to penetrate deep inside Gaza territory. They are just waiting for the Palestinians to leave that area, because they do not want any kind of collateral damage. And let me again show you, because already we have seen that artillery guns have opened their mouths. They have started pounding shells in many of these places. Now the tank movement can start anytime. Once they are going to get go-ahead from the seniors, these tanks will start moving inside Gaza, and they are going to mount down Hamas terrorists who resorted to brutality, who resorted to terrorism, who resorted to terror, tyranny, death, destruction. But now it is a time to avenge killing of each and every Israeli. And people here have made up their mind. Even if you take time, but don't leave Hamas, enough is enough. That's what they are saying. As you can see, another rocket has been fired from the Gaza Strip. Heavy bombardment of Gaza area continues. You can see the bombs are being dropped in the interior of the Gaza city, and you can see thick smoke billowing out from amid the high-rise building. And this has been seen for the last 3-4 days. Also, air raid is continuing in that area. F-15 and F-16, they're dropping the bomb. They're trying to target all those areas where from they think Hamas is operating. More than 300 strongholds of Hamas had been targeted, and one of the top commander, Nassim Ajina, has been eliminated. Almost the thick smoke that has engulfed the whole sky. It has covered the skyline. Been told by the IDF that they have moved 2 miles inside the Gaza city, and they have also released a video where the IDF personnel can be seen standing atop one of the hotels there. And also they have done one thing, they have raised Israeli flag at some of the places, because they are trying to show their presence. They are trying to have their footprints there inside the Gaza, because right now also you can hear the sounds of the aircraft flying by, because whenever the aircraft movement is there, that means the bomb will be dropped. There is no respite for the people here, but everybody is really concerned about the humanitarian aid for the people there inside. The United Nations has said it can lead to a catastrophic situation there if the humanitarian aid is not provided. But so far as Israel is concerned, they are saying that we had been asking people to move from that area, but unfortunately the Hamas terrorists are using them as human shield. They are not allowing people to move out the soil, and they want to ensure that all those people who had been held hostage are rescued and released at earliest. Because whenever you can hear that, let me show you, that bomb has been dropped in that area. You can see that thick smoke. That thick smoke. Every time whenever there is a movement of an aircraft, they drop a bomb, because based on the coordinates and information about the presence of Hamas terrorists, they are trying to decimate and demolish them. And that's what exactly they are trying to do here in that area. You can see, just right now on the screen, you can see that thick white smoke. engulfing Gaza skyline. And earlier you must have seen their smoke here. Now you can see the smoke just few meters away from there, because they are dropping bomb. They are trying their level best that Hamas terrorists are not able to raise their head. Under the cover of this fire, they want to penetrate deep inside the territory, because they are looking for that incursion corridor where from they can move in. Once they're able to move inside, and they're able to control that area, because more and more area they will be able to control, and that is going to be a decisive factor, because at the end of the day, it's not the carpet bombing that's really going to make the difference. It's basically the footprints of the soldier, and that will decide about the fate of the war.
This is going to be a long war, and there may be several international players wanting the warring parties to negotiate a truce. There is also the serious question of the safety of hostages. Will countries like Qatar, UAE and Saudi Arabia be relied upon to assist in securing their release? A lot of these negotiations will be happening behind the public gaze, but for the time being the war continues, and so does, tragically, the humanitarian plight.